This is Corbin Parker, and this is my PechaKucha for World Civilization. The topic is World War II weaponry. This topic is one of significance in the modern world as well as the past. It can be one that sparks controversy to this day because of the implications of destruction and chaos. The goal for this project is to examine the significance of it during World War II as well as its significance today. When directing our attention to World War II, the primary and most memorable weapon is the atomic bomb. This piece of technology not only revolutionized the way many weapons were made, but also completely shifted the scale of global power for many countries. In order to understand why the atomic bomb affected so many countries, it is important to examine the bomb itself. The atomic or nuclear bombs are powerful weapons that use nuclear reactions as their source of explosive energy. One of these bombs can kill hundreds of thousands of people. Even the people that survive the initial explosion do not get off easily. Most of them that are in the radius of the bomb will die of radiation poisoning. Now that we have briefly covered the bomb itself, it is easy to understand why it affected global war so greatly. The atomic bomb was first tested during World War II. The Allies were already winning the war, but were fighting in Japan. The team dubbed the test the Manhattan Project. The test site was at a remote place in New Mexico. The initial motivation for the weapon of mass destruction was to deter people who threatened America. There is also compelling evidence that America was outgunned by many other countries. There's always a mentality during war that the biggest gun always wins. The Axis force had an insurmountable amount of weaponry. Even though the Allies won the battle at Normandy Beach, it was a hollow victory. Countless lives were lost because of the heavy artillery from the Axis. The Allies were not winning because of firepower, but because they had more people. The German nuclear weapons project, known as the Uranium Society, was an unsuccessful scientific effort led by Germany to research nuclear weapons during World War II. It went through several phases of work, but it ultimately was frozen at laboratory level and never concluded until post-World War II. America had a revolutionary weapon that only other countries could dream of having. While many other countries were advancing in artillery and tanks and planes, the United States needed something big. They needed something to send a message to their enemies. When Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, many soldiers were lost. However, when the U.S. retaliated, thousands of Japanese civilians lost their lives. The atomic bomb lived up to its title as a weapon of mass destruction. The two Japanese cities that were hit by atomic bombs were, of course, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. While both bombs were atomic bombs, one was made of uranium and the other with plutonium. The United States gave a warning to the cities to evacuate, but there was not enough time for most. With the use of these two bombs, both cities were destroyed. Over 40% of each city was completely destroyed. The hospitals nearby were flooded and unable to function with the influx of hurt and dying people. Many people died and many more suffered from the atomic bomb. According to Japan, this threat from the United States caused them to surrender out of the fear of a possibility of nuclear warfare. The final tally of deaths from this bombing were over 300,000 people. Many people were missing and never found. A retaliation of this magnitude caused many other countries to pay close attention to the United States' nuclear power. While the United States had been the core of the world system for a while now, this new weapon of mass destruction ensured it would stay that way. The long-term effect of the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki were detrimental to Japan. The exposure the survivors suffered from radiation significantly increased their chances of dying from cancer. It caused many birth defects and losses of children as well. These only include health-related problems. There is also the task of rebuilding cities from the ground up. While there was a debate on the importance of nuclear weapons after World War II, it was clear there needed to be certain regulations established to maintain peace and harmony between nations. While it is foolish to think there are no disputes between countries, if guidelines are set in place, it will lower the risk of death. Before first nuclear weapons had been developed, scientists involved in the Manhattan Project were divided over the use of the weapon. The role of the two atomic bombings of the countries in Japan's surrender and the U.S.'s ethical justification for them have been subject of scholarly and popular debates for decades. The question of whether nations should have nuclear weapons or test them have been continually and nearly universally controversial. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, also called NATO, is an intergovernmental military alliance between 29 North American and European countries. The organization implements the North Atlantic Treaty that was signed on April 4th, 1949. NATO constitutes a system of collective defense whereby its independent members agree to a mutual defense in response to an attack by an external party. NATO's headquarters are located in Aveiro, Brussels, Belgium, while the headquarters of the Allied Command Office are in Mons, Belgium. Since its founding, the admission of new member states has increased the alliance from the original 12 countries to 29. The most recent member to be added to NATO is Montenegro on June 5th, 2017. An additional 21 countries participate in NATO's Partnership for Peace program, with 15 other countries involved. Over 500 atmospheric nuclear weapons tested were conducted at various sites around the world from 1945 to 1980. Radioactive fallout from nuclear weapons testing was first drawn to public attention in 1954, where the Castle Bravo hydrogen bomb at the Pacific Proving Grounds contaminated the crew and catch of the Japanese fishing boat, the Lucky Dragon. One of the fishermen died in Japan several months later, and the fear of contaminated tuna led to temporary boycotting of the popular staple in Japan. Peaceful nuclear explosions are nuclear explosions conducted for non-military purposes, such as activities related to economic development, including the creation of canals. During the 1960s and 70s, both the United States and Soviet Union conducted a number of P&Es. 6 of the tests, subsequently, the United States and the Soviet Union halted their programs. Definitions and limits are covered in the Peaceful Nuclear Explosions Treaty of 1976. Thank you for listening to this online presentation. Hopefully this brought some insight into how nuclear weapons were brought to light and how they during World War II and how its effects on people's lives today. It is important to learn our lesson from our past and allow it to affect our future.